Good morning, Excellencies, ambassadors, my colleagues, and esteemed experts. Good morning. Welcome back to the working group discussion. Now, yesterday, we have completed our discussions on 4C. So this morning, we can now move to sub-item 4D to discuss methodology for the evaluation of nomination files. Mr. Secretary, Mr. Curtis, as before, please explain to us the main issues related to this reflection theme.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, and good morning to the room and to everyone, and thank you for joining us. Under this item on the methodology of the evaluation, the expert consultations showed that in general, the current evaluation process is largely satisfactory, including the composition of the evaluation body as well as its working methods and timetable. However, some suggestions were made that would be applicable for both approaches we identified. Firstly, the possibility of extending multinational nominations to include other states' parties should be simplified whenever possible. Experts stressed that in line with the spirit of the Convention, community consent should nevertheless remain a key requirement in the extension process, particularly to indicate the willingness of the communities under the original nominations to be associated with the newly joining communities and vice versa. At the same time, a new procedure should be established that would not require the submission of a full nomination dossier for the parts concerning the original communities. In recent cycles, for example, we've had an extension that involves 16 or 24 state parties, which requires the treatment of an extra 16 or 24 files in actuality. A solution could be that the existing states, or the pre-existing states on the nomination, provide evidence that the communities of the original nomination have provided their free, prior, and informed consent to the extension of the nomination to other communities, while also confirming that no major development has taken place that would alter the nature of the element or the information submitted previously. Finally, I'd like to remind the room that the issue of the procedure for the extension of multinational dossier is also a direct request by the committee as indicated in its decision 14-14. Secondly, the evaluation of nominations can be based not only and purely on information provided in the files submitted by the state's party, but also on information that body members identify or may be aware of outside of the file, for instance, gathered through the body's own experience, through proactive research, or through correspondence received by the Secretariat. So some experts thought that such information could indeed be used after checking the reliability of the additionally acquired information, and that members of the body came to a full consensus on its use, that all 12 body members agreed, and that it be accounted for in the report of the evaluation body's report, as well as the draft decisions concerning the specific file in question. Nevertheless, other experts questioned the desirability of this proposal as it might complicate the evaluation process because of the different levels and kinds of information available for different elements. And then finally, as we have said before, experts highlighted and re-stressed the importance of using gender-neutral and inclusive language within all aspects of the implementation of the Convention, in the files, but also in the debates. And once again, the term that has been used multiple times, gentleman's agreement, was singled out as something to change. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary, for pointing out three major topics to be covered under this reflection theme. Now, let me now open the floor and hear what state parties would have to say on those points related to the methodology for the evaluation of nominations. Now, delegations wishing to take the floor should raise hand up by using the raise hand function of this platform. I see, at this moment, I see only Switzerland and Netherlands. So Switzerland to be followed by the Netherlands. Switzerland, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Bonjour à toutes et à tous pour cette deuxième journée de travail. Et merci déjà pour la manière dont vous avez mené les débats hier. Nous nous réjouissons de poursuivre sur ce bon modèle aujourd'hui. Nous comprenons la proposition de considérer des informations en dehors des dossiers de candidature pour mieux évaluer ces
Switzerland, are you
candidatures.
online?
Oui, excusez-moi, Monsieur le Président. Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Yes, Switzerland, please.
Merci. Monsieur le Président, nous comprenons la proposition de considérer les informations en dehors...
Sorry, Switzerland, we cannot hear you. Have you unmuted your microphone?
Yes, I did. Maybe there is no translation into English, no interpretation at the moment.
Sorry, still we cannot hear you. Can you try again?
Oui, Monsieur le Président, est-ce que vous m'entendez?
We can hear him, but there is no English interpretation.
Oh, for the moment, there is no English interpretation. So, est-ce que l'interprétation fonctionne? Apparemment, l'interprétation fonctionne maintenant. Est-ce que vous pouvez me donner un signe que je peux continuer en français?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Please go
Très
ahead.
bien. Merci, Monsieur le Président. Désolé pour ces soucis techniques. Nous comprenons la proposition de considérer des informations en dehors des dossiers de candidature pour mieux évaluer ces candidatures. Cela pourrait permettre une analyse plus détaillée, mais dans le même temps, cela risquerait de compliquer et de rallonger l'évaluation, comme ça a été mentionné tout à l'heure. De plus, nous relevons le risque de ne plus assurer un traitement équitable des candidatures en raison d'informations disponibles très variables en termes de qualité et de quantité. Dans ce sens, nous ne soutenons pas l'idée d'utiliser d'autres informations que celles fournies dans les dossiers. Par contre, il nous semble tout à fait pertinent d'introduire un processus permettant une transmission d'informations plus directe et facile par les communautés, notamment par des outils numériques. Ainsi, nous serions en faveur, par exemple, d'un modèle souple d'audition, hearing, entre l'organe d'évaluation et les représentants des communautés, dans l'esprit renforcé du dialogue en amont que nous connaissons. D'autre part, nous saluons la simplification du processus pour l'extension des candidatures à d'autres pays. Elle va dans l'esprit de coopération autour d'un patrimoine vivant partagé. Toutefois, nous considérons, comme les experts, que la volonté et le consentement des communautés doivent être au centre de toute extension. En ce sens, nous rappelons que pour des candidatures multinationales, nous devons veiller à ne pas créer des communautés fictives, mais bien se baser sur des communautés de pratiques transnationales, comme l'a relevé hier l'expert Leonski. Les candidatures multinationales nécessitent par ailleurs une attention et un accompagnement particulier, et nous réitérons notre demande formulée lors du dernier comité de mettre en place des lignes directrices spécifiques pour ce type de candidature. Il nous semble que cette demande n'a été que trop peu reflétée dans cette première phase de réflexion. Merci de votre attention.
Thank you very much. Now the Netherlands to be followed by. Okay, I don't recognize any hand yet. We are still in the beginning part of the morning. Okay, anyway, Netherlands to be followed by Japan. Netherlands, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Netherlands has always valued the expertise and evaluations of the evaluation body. The body is elected by the committee and we have to respect their evaluation. That could be enriched that could be enriched by community views, etc. We think it's doubtful that we can use information outside the information file during the evaluation of the file. Extending nominations is an important point. The Netherlands has invited other countries to join the Dutch nomination of the craft of the miller, and we see it as a way to closely work together internationally, to exchange knowledge and skills on safeguarding. The procedure could be simplified. A new nomination procedure would not be necessary. Most importantly, all communities involved of all the state parties should give their consent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Japan to be followed by Algeria. Japan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everybody. We agree for the necessity of simplifying the process of extending nominations to include other state parties. Related to this topic, we also would like to simplify, if possible, the modality in order to extending the nominations to new communities when communities that share the same intangible cultural heritage are newly identified within or outside of the country after an inscription. For example, enabling the extension by making it a matter to be reported at the time of periodic reporting. We support the position that external information should be actively used if it is useful in deepening understanding of the proposed intangible cultural heritage itself and in determining that it meets the criteria for inclusion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Now, Algeria to be followed by Poland.
Bonjour,
So
Monsieur le
Algeria, please.
Président. Bonjour, Monsieur le Président, et je vous remercie de m'avoir donné la parole. Je tiens tout d'abord à vous féliciter pour votre élection donc, à la présidence de notre groupe de travail. Monsieur le Président, l'implication des communautés nationales dans le processus d'inscription d'éléments sur la liste du patrimoine culturel immatériel de la Convention de 2003 est important et n'est plus, je crois, à démontrer. Cette implication des communautés nationales ne doit pas pour autant remettre en question la place centrale des entités nationales et celle des experts dans ce processus. À cet effet, la consultation des communautés nationales pour l'extension de candidatures à d'autres États parties doit être, à notre sens, simplifiée pour ne pas constituer un obstacle à l'extension des candidatures. Comme vous le savez, Monsieur le Président, le consentement de l'ensemble des communautés qui sont parfois nombreuses n'est pas un exercice aisé. C'est pour cela que nous souhaitons une plus grande simplification de l'opération d'extension des candidatures à d'autres États parties. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. Now, Poland, followed by Kuwait. Poland, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to everyone. We would like to express our full support and appreciation of the work that is being done by the evaluation body. Nevertheless, taking into account the reported problems in the process, also reported in the reports of the evaluation body itself, we do believe that the process might be enhanced by seeking sometimes additional information. And in this regard, we would like to draw the attention to the ICH NGO Forum expertise. We know that the process on the reflection of the advisory function that might be taken into account in different areas of the operation of the convention has already started, but with no exact conclusions. So we would like to draw the attention of the distinguished states parties to the forum that exists and that is growing, and the expertise that is there. Regarding the third point raised by Mr. Curtis on the use of gender neutral and inclusive language, we also believe that as the convention itself is a new and very inspiring document, this is probably also a good forum to start the discussion. There are traditions we cherish, but there are also traditions we want to leave and we want to forget. And if we look into the history of the gentleman's agreement, we are back in the 19th century and in the colonial times and in the colonial agreements. So we also believe that there are other opportunities such as verbal agreement or non-formal agreement that might be used instead of this old term gentleman's agreement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Kuwait to be followed by Brazil. Kuwait, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to everyone. Mr. Chair, regarding this item, the evaluation of evaluation of the nomination, I have one general comment regarding the evaluation, then I'll go to the specific items that you described at the beginning. Regarding the general item, Kuwait believes the nomination and evaluation process should be used, and the use of technology should be used throughout the use of the nomination and evaluation. What we mean is, for the minute the member states submit the dossier until the end of the file, the whole process should be online. It can be monitored by the member state in each stage, whenever it's submitted to the secretariat, to the experts and information. The whole process should be in a platform where member state can access this information throughout the process. And the reason behind that, it just give it more transparent, we believe, and also more important for the committee members, whenever they want to look at the dossiers, whenever they take a decision, they can look throughout the history of the files, and the information was provided and the outcome of all stage. So that's in general term. We believe it's important to have a platform for the nomination and evaluation process. Second, regarding the three specific items that you mentioned, Mr. Chair, Kuwait believe the procedure for multinational files, if it was simplified, it will be benefit. At the same time, we should keep in mind that the community involvement. So that's one. Also believe the composition of the experts, the number should be dynamic. It should not be fixed. It should be dynamic based on the need of the dossiers. Like we see, this convention has been, evolving throughout the past few years. So we don't want to strict ourselves to a number of experts where in a couple of years we have, we have an issue. They might have a backlog files that we're having. So we think the number of experts should be dynamic based on the need. Finally, regarding the information that's outside what's member state, we think that will add more complicated. It will sometimes, those extra information, will it be validated by member state? Will it contradict what's member states? At the end, this is a convention that member states are the ones who provide the dossier. I think the dialogue process, the expert, they might discuss with the member state through this extra information. But I think the decision should not be based on outside information that the member state provided. With that, I'm sorry for taking long. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Now Brazil to be followed by Bangladesh. Brazil, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everybody. First of all, we all understand that the idea of simplifying the process of evaluation is a very important matter. But we still think that the file, the dossier, is a very important piece, and we have to base all the evaluation on this piece. Regarding what the Ambassador of Kuwait has just said, my suggestion also would be that we could have the dialogue process, this tool that we are still shaping, to include this add of information. I mean, we could extend the role of the dialogue process in order to incorporate those new information, all the dialogues that we are going to have with the communities and so on. And also having in mind the idea that all this information at the end should be present at the file. So basically, in order to give elements for our work, yes, to simplify, to make easier the process of incorporating the dialogue with communities and so on, but without forgetting the role of the file. And maybe if after will be the consensus to use the tool of the dialogue process in an extended format to do this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Now, Bangladesh to be followed by Romania. Bangladesh, please.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. Good morning to everyone. The issue regarding whatever I was supposed to tell when Ambassador of Kuwait was there, everything is categorically mentioned. So I do not want to repeat what Ambassador of Kuwait said. It is also applicable from the side of Bangladesh as well. I'd like to specifically mention one point regarding community involvement. We should be, this is really a good idea to have extensive discussion with the communities. There should be a dialogue. And it is also true that all the communities in all countries are not in equal footing in terms of language, in terms of presentation. Sometimes the state party is also facing problems how to replicate community's involvement or how to replicate community through the typical dossier that we have. So there are some problems in presentation also. It is, to me, inscription, it is a language game, nothing else. There should be definitely close cooperation and collaboration with the communities, but it should go through the member states because through the process, through the government process, we actually make it easy and accessible to the experts. So we should not do anything where maybe direct communication may lose the total importance of that particular item or of that particular intangible cultural heritage to provide good and effective information. So there may be also some information gap if all the parties are not there, specifically the state party, the participation from even the participation from the NGOs who are working. So it should, in the name of simplifying the process, we should keep in mind that we should not make it more complicated. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Now, Romania to be followed by Colombia. Romania, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Romania always respected and appreciated the recommendations of the evaluation body. But in terms of getting more information from different sources, we believe it could be challenging because unfortunately there is a lot of inaccurate information out there, especially information that does not respect and follow the point of view of communities. So of course, we also support, like the other state parties, the direct communication with communities, which is the best source for information, for additional information. In terms of the extension of the nomination files, Romania fully supports a simplified process, especially for the original communities and state parties. And I can say that because we are within a process of joining a nomination. And I have to say that maybe sometimes it's frustrating for the original state parties and those communities, especially since the nomination that is extended is a newly inscribed nomination. So, after 1 year or two, there is another process that they have to go through with us together. Of course, they are always very generous about their commitment. And we also believe, like Poland, that we can preserve the principle of the gentleman's agreement. We just have to find a better wording. And probably it's very easy to do that. We'd call it, for example, informal agreement. But I think it preserves a lot of the actual concept. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, Colombia to be followed by Sweden. Colombia, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and good morning to everyone. Regarding the methodology, we fully support that the evaluation nominations can access other information other than the file. noting that the file is the main information, because we all know that it follows a process, but sometimes they need more information. And I think that's a very good tool, for instance, if they need more information also, that can help with the process and the effectivity of the process. But sometimes that also can bring some balance about that we don't have, for instance, like in the Convention of World Heritage, experts coming, but then again, you rely on the information in the nomination, but you can kind of access other kind of information that can be with another point of view. But I believe it's very important, and we have seen in some cases that could have helped a lot of situations, actually. And it will be complicated in the measure in what extent they have to access it. I mean, we don't believe that it can be a replacement of the nomination, for sure, but it for sure can complement and give a little bit more of information. Regarding the possibility to extend nominations and include other state parties, Colombia really believes that it's important to do a complete file, because anyways, the safeguarding will be at a national level. You will have to have that process at a national level, but maybe what can be simplified is the joining of the nomination. Maybe it can be shorter or following different timeline or something like that. But it's really important that the countries that are joining an already inscribed element do their process with their communities and with the proper safeguarding measures according to the realities of the country, which aren't necessarily the same of the country they are joining the previous element. And finally, I have to agree with my colleague from Romania. Informal agreement or something more neutral or more, more of our time can be a very good idea, but the important thing is that we keep that agreement going on and that we try to follow it every time. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Now, Sweden, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to all. We agree that the possibility of extending nominations to include other state parties should be simplified while retaining a community-based approach. We attach the greatest importance to the high-quality work of the evaluation body. We trust our experts and value their work greatly. Regarding information available to the body, we thought that Poland had a great suggestion on including the NGO forum, something that we also attach great importance to, and we've seen the quality of their deliberations, and we hope they can contribute in this. We also support gender-neutral modern language. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. China, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I would like to share with you some of our brief comments on the methodology of the evaluation of nominations. First, we do believe that we should always bear in mind that all the listing mechanism is set up to contribute to the realization of the principles and objectives of the convention, which is to raise the awareness of the importance of ICH and also to improve the visibility of ICH worldwide, and also to encourage dialogues and international cooperation. Therefore, the listing mechanism should always be taken a very open approach when we talking about the listing mechanism. That is why we do believe that most of these state parties believe we need to simplify the mechanism or the procedures of the listing mechanism of the examinations in order to encourage more state parties to submit their nominations, not to be disencouraged. This is a very principal basic rationale of our comments. And secondly, we do believe that regarding the work of the evaluation body, their independence and their expertise and should be respected, should be given due respect, and their work should be based on an equal basis. They should also focus only on the informations in the nomination files only, but not in, to seek for more outside information. Now we have already introduced the dialogue process and also the correspondence during the process of the evaluation, which we believe that would help to better to contribute to the communication between the evaluation body and the nomination parties. I do believe that both the dialogue and the correspondence, they are different from the outside information. So we would propose to make them very specifically elaborated in the operational directives, so that we would be very clearly about these processes. And thirdly, we also in favor of the simplifying the process of extension of those elements already inscribed based on the given content of those communities concerned, of those original elements. Because we do believe that the communities should be always put at the core of all the elements and safeguarding efforts. We would also like to put forward another issue. Since according to the nomination forms, it is requested to provide for the state parties to provide the evidence for their national inventory to be updated regularly. The issue we are thinking about is that whether we need to establish a kind of interaction between the national inventory and also the extension of the inscribed elements. Since once we have the updated national inventory at the national level, it means that we have more communities involved in the safeguarding of the elements. And we would also thinking about that if this element has already been inscribed on the lists, why not to also introduce the to allow the extension of the elements to involve more concerned communities. So we would like to just wonder whether it is possible to establish such kind of interaction between the national inventory and also those communities concerned of the elements already inscribed. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Now, Bangladesh, please. Okay, Bangladesh, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a brief comment. I think outside information may complicate the evaluation process, I guess. One thing is important here, that is our intention. Whether we would like to be liberal about the nomination files, that is very much important here. It will be too difficult to pass hard if we impose more and more criteria for the evaluation of the nomination files. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, let me offer some observations so that we can have more focused discussions. Now, well, let me just go directly to the 3 points that the Secretary mentioned. First of all, the extension. On this particular point, as far as I can see, nobody is opposed to the simplification of procedures for the extension of files to other nominations. So pending the concrete proposals, I can pretty take it to mean that the room is in support of the simplification of procedures for the extension. That is one point that I took from the discussions this morning. And secondly, outside information. Many countries, many state parties were very cautious about this. They were worried about the complication of the process. They were worried about the due diligence. And they are also worried about the treatment of this kind of outside information in relation to the national nomination dossier. So if I'm not mistaken, there were more countries, more state parties who want to take a cautious approach on this one. But nevertheless, there were some suggestions there. One suggestion was dialogue with the communities, direct dialogue with the communities, maybe making use of the modern technologies. And that kind of dialogue could produce some additional information which may be useful for the evaluation. So direct dialogue with the communities was one element that came out from the discussions. And another element is the involvement of NGOs. The involvement of NGOs. So I would like to hear more views about those suggestions, the dialogue with the community, direct dialogue between the experts and the communities, making use of the modern technologies, in the hope that the experts may get more information from the communities, which is useful for their evaluation. That's one point. Another point, as I said, is the involvement of the NGOs. So I would like to hear more views on those 2 points in relation to the second point. Now, on the question of gender-neutral language, I didn't hear anybody opposing this notion. I'm sure that it's perhaps inappropriate to oppose to this, but the discussion centered around the particular name, gentleman's agreement, as a typical example of this. But in any case, I don't think I have heard any voice against this principle of having gender-neutral language. So that is the way I see it. So my suggestion is perhaps we don't need to have discussions on the first point. Everybody seems to be in agreement on that. On the second point, the outside information, we heard a number of countries saying that we need to be cautious about outside information, but nevertheless, there were suggestions with the NGO involvement and the direct dialogue with the communities. And finally, unless anybody has a strong view about gender-neutral language, I think this can be included in our recommendation. So with that observation, I would again like to open the floor for more views. Yes, Colombia, please.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Regarding the participation of the NGOs, as we all know, there has been long discussions regarding the involvement of the accredited NGOs and how can they participate more in the implementation of the convention. They have identified strengths. Well, I think we all are familiar with the process. And maybe after this discussion, as somebody previously, I think it was Poland, if I'm not wrong, proposed, they could help with the external information, for instance. And I'm thinking very much spontaneously, and of course, this has to be really well defined and identified which role they will have. But it could be that in case needed, the evaluation body can ask the NGO, the forum for some external information. And since we all know that those accredited NGOs are regional representative, they know the different languages, they know English as well, so they can be a nice bridge between communities and the language of UNESCO, etc. That could be a good opportunity for them. And I think that will also kind of tackle the problem or the situation more about what to do if we have so many NGOs and only a few of them can be part of the evaluation body. But then again, as I said, I guess the Secretariat can help us think what would be the good way to integrate them for not making a mess on the proper evaluation bodies that we have and reiterating also the importance of the nomination as the main element and the form submitted by member states as the main element of a nomination of an element. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, Netherlands to be followed by Poland. Netherlands, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Netherlands thinks more direct participation of communities in all listing mechanisms is needed. We also believe communities, NGOs, and researchers could make proposals for the register. Via web-based online forums, communities could give their vision on nominations and concerns about transfer, etc. But we are still not sure and have questions about the working of these ideas through online platforms, because we think who will appoint its members, and what is the relation to the NGO forum, and how seriously will these visions of communities and researchers be taken into account? So we think we should seriously look at these sorts of questions first, because we would like to have some answers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now Poland to be followed by Brazil. Poland, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We would like to express our gratitude to our colleague from Colombia for elaborating more on the possibilities of engaging ICH NGO Forum. This is already a forum that is rooted in the convention. So when we discuss the issue of seeking outside information, and that might be really plenty of different sources, we can rely on the expertise of NGOs that are already there and that know the convention, know the spirit of the convention, but also have relevant, extensive field knowledge that is sometimes needed. And we also would like to propose the possibility to enforce a separate track, separate procedure, the way it was proposed for discussion on Article 18 on the register, because definitely we do not have now a clear solution on how procedurally ICH NGO Forum could have been involved, and that would require more detailed and more focused discussion. So we believe this will be a helpful way to take this seriously and to provide some relevant solutions in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, I recognize Brazil, but Jordan has risen the flag, and Jordan is for the first time. So please, Jordan, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk. First of all, I would like to congratulate you for the wise management of this event, and thanks to the Secretary for its wonderful organization of this event. In fact, Jordan would support the simplifying of the extended nominations. And also regarding the ungendered language, I think it should be applied through the entire literature of the convention and its related nomination files. As for the community involvement, I think that we are facing a challenge here. As you know, the 2003 convention is implemented with the collaborative participation of states, parties that ratified it. In this context, the interests of the relevant ICH communities may not exactly coincide with those of the state governments. This may be especially true when the ICH communities are ethnic and or cultural minorities, or in some regions, displaced people. In cases where the mainstream culture in the nation states and the minority cultures have significant differences, the state's safeguarding ICH may result in marginalizing some ICH domains. Intangible cultural heritage, as you know, can also be utilizing by the state governments as nation building work, thus creating political conflicts. In this case, I think we have, Jordan supports the involvement of communities, but through which channels, through which approaches should we follow in realizing this, this target? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, sorry, I have to go. I will come back to Brazil. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just regarding the participation of the NGOs, of course, we welcome this participation very much. But when we talk about NGOs, we cannot forget that the convention still has to improve the question of the geographical distribution of the NGOs and the capacity building. I think this is a very, very important point in our convention. Also to have more NGOs which will be able to integrate the evaluation body. If we do not do this work, of course, the intention is wonderful, but it has to be followed by a very strong capacity building program and the intention of really establish more equal geographical distribution among the NGOs which cooperate and help the convention to be implemented. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Poland, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and sorry for taking the floor, but we would just like to support what our colleague from Brazil just has raised. Capacity building and more balanced geographical representation also within NGOs is very, very much needed, and it is still a huge issue for the NGO forum. So we would like to support this line of arguments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now see some evolution of discussions here. First of all, when we talk about the NGOs, the NGO forum is already there. We have to, in a way, we have to have more concrete proposal in terms of the process of involving NGOs. That's one issue. But another issue is actually mentioned by Brazil and also Poland. The capacity building, there's a kind of imbalance at this moment in terms of the geographical distribution of NGOs. So that is one issue which came out in relation to the NGO involvement. And also in terms of the community involvement, Jordan spoke about a kind of complications or perhaps a kind of a sensitive nature of the NGO involvement. And as I remember, China touched on this issue before. The leadership of the national entity, when they come up with the registry, the assumption there is more NGOs, more communities are actually, more communities, local communities are involved by way of the national registry. So there are a few issues which may merit further discussions. And on the question of NGOs and also on the question of direct communication with the communities concerned, that could merit some discussions here. To see the direction in which we should be going, I just want to hear a bit more views. And after that, I want to give the floor to Mr. Curtis on the relevant points. So can I solicit some more views, maybe a few more views, and then Mr. Curtis after that. Well, so far I have not seen any hand raised on this issue. Okay, thank you. Ambassador Adam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to echo what our colleagues from Brazil and Poland says regarding the NGOs. I think that's a very important topic. We want the community involvement, but I think like our colleagues from China is, I think the modality we will, if we go direct with the NGOs, the dialogue, I think, we are entering, some complicated issues, like also our colleagues from Jordan, because then you will see which NGOs are registered, which information will be provided, if it's different than the member states. So I think, this is still premature for that concept yet. So this is our point of view. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ambassador Adam, can I just clarify one thing? You were talking about NGOs or communities?
About both of them, the NGOs and community.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Norway to be followed by Bangladesh. Norway, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Norway supports the view of Colombia and Poland and others of involving the relevant communities and the relevant NGOs in the dialogue process. And we also support Netherlands in the need of more information. And we trust the Secretariat to develop relevant procedures for the involvements. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Bangladesh, please.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. It will be again a reiteration of what was said, what was summarized by you first, and what was said by the ambassador of Kuwait and earlier the delegate from Brazil, supported by Poland, I suppose. Actually, it is still premature regarding the involvement of community and regarding the involvement of NGOs. What will be the modality? We do not know. How they will be engaged in evaluation nomination process? We do not know. The process, what we have already, is still a complicated process. For that reason, we earlier said about, and now it is being done or going on, that there will be some discussion with the evaluators and the state party if there is any problem in a file. So right at the moment, engaging more parties will create some problems rather than facilitating the total scenario. Again, if the modalities can be found in a good shape, the idea is good. Overall, if we say that in this case, in this situation of the world or technological development of the world, where we all are here, we're talking together, having a platform where we all share our views, this can be included, or this idea can be included in nomination process, in evaluation process, where evaluator can have direct contact with the communities, fine. But what should be the modality? How can we do it? Whether for that reason, member state oriented or member state driven organization may turn into a different one. Whether we are going to something, some issues else that we find some problems in other conventions also. So whether we are just bringing some problems again in our total process, that may create some problems rather than having a congenial atmosphere to have the discussions. And probably this issue is a little bit premature. Rather than listing mechanisms, we can whether ensuring more files to be evaluated for the member states, because these are also issues related to the image of a particular member state. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Now, I'd like to hear from Poland, and after Poland, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Curtis. Poland, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to all delegates who also were discussing the issue related to the involvement of communities and NGOs. And I would just like to take this opportunity to clarify our position. We do know that the unbalanced geographical representation is still a matter that is present in the ICH NGO forum. However, we wouldn't like to postpone this involvement because this is a more structural problem related to the financial possibilities of the different countries and the way they support NGOs. So postponing the process until we have a balanced geographical representation might mean that we will never make use of the expertise of the ICH NGO Forum. So by supporting the proposal by the delegate of Brazil to invest more time to look at this issue and to invest into capacity building, we would also like to invite us all that the process already begins. I think we can learn more and we can also discuss in details how procedurally this may happen if this line of reflection will be introduced. So we wouldn't like to postpone this process, but to have these solutions, capacity building, involvement of NGOs and their expertise going hand in hand. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Now, at this moment, I wish to give the floor to Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, and thank you to all the delegates for all their very stimulating comments and interesting comments. Clearly, these are topics that many are concerned with and engaged with. And I feel that in giving comments, I have to come back to the starting point, which I didn't really want to use, which is the resources of this convention are limited. And we are now at a phase where, if I may say so, it's bursting at the seams. And what I am hearing, unfortunately, I'm not hearing solutions to that problem, and maybe tomorrow in September it will have to come back. And I don't want to go into the details, and I think there's very interesting ideas, but all of these ideas have to be costed, and all of these ideas have to be implemented, and we are not seeing a way forward, but we'll come back to that later. On the question of NGOs, just for information, we are actually working this year at the moment with the ICH NGO Forum to do a mapping. We have had a process of reflections. The NGOs have started presenting an item to the committee. So we are not doing nothing. It is moving. It has not come to the point of them being implied specifically in the evaluation process, but movement is definitely happening within the convention on that front, and we are currently engaged in work with the ICH NGO Forum Steering Committee precisely on a mapping exercise to identify the capacities and the resources available within the ICH NGO Forum, which in this case consists of some 160 or 70, I don't know the exact number now, accredited NGOs, with all different shapes and sizes and orientations and different kinds of NGOs and very different capacities. So it's very important so that work is going on and it will be coming to the committee. So I think that was it. I think the ambassador clearly explained on the information outside the file. But there was one comment, maybe one member state I will repeat, and this is something that concerns me personally, I will say now. And the comment was from the Honorable Delegate of Bangladesh, who said inscription is a language game and nothing else. And I do feel this is a concern with our current system. And I just wanted to highlight that quote, which struck me particularly strongly. On that, I will end there, but we will have to say that at one stage, all of these proposals will have to be costed. What we are seeing now does not give confidence, and what we are hearing that we will be able to include more files and do more nominations, and that despite all the good intentions, but this discussion is ongoing. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Now, with the comments from Mr. Curtis in mind, I would like to come back to the discussions. Now, Colombia to be followed by Brazil. Colombia, please.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair, and I would like to thank also the Secretary for its clarifications. And of course, we remember very well the process with the NGOs, which has been quite impressive, I believe. And my remark was in that sense, from what my colleague from Poland just said, that actually what I see is that this geographical representation in the forum can be also tackled with this to promote more involvement in this sort of idea that we are discussing for the NGOs to bring external information, or even with, of course, with the capacity building, etc. But I think that's maybe an opportunity to follow up on that issue, which is a reality, of course, but maybe then some NGOs will feel more useful or more close to the safeguarding. And one of the discussions during the process that the Secretary just mentioned was actually how, and also these mapping exercises, was how these different sizes and kinds of NGOs can help to implement the convention. So in that sense, the small ones can be very much useful in the nomination process and to really help and support. That, of course, again, as the Secretary said, we will have to see the budget. That's a reality in UNESCO. So I think we all are very familiar with it. But I think my invitation is to see this as a really an opportunity to bring these NGOs and to really seek for this geographical representation and their role on the implementation of the convention, which is what we seek, which is the ICH Forum. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Before going further, I would just like to say one thing. Well, I don't intend to provide different points of view with my secretary, but the use of modern technologies, the platforms, can solve some of the cost issues. For example, the direct dialogue with the communities, it may not cost much to make if we can make use of the internet connections and having videos, having some kind of online information that could reduce the cost element. And also the involvement of the NGOs, if they can say something about the nomination process, in the nomination process, that may not result in a great deal of cost. So, that is one particular point that I wanted to make. Let me now go back to the list of speakers. Brazil to be followed by Bangladesh. Brazil, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for giving me the floor again. Just briefly to clarify, of course, I did not intend that we had to wait to have an equal geographic distribution to start working with the NGO forum. We know that this will be a long process. In this sense, I totally agree with the delegate of Poland. What I meant is that this situation needs to find other solutions, because we know that we had already made an effort and to include more NGOs from other areas of the world, and this effort seems to have partially failed, because we are not having this those results that we intend to have. So this is a question that maybe we have to look for new ways of working, new solutions. Anyway, the idea was only to keep that in mind and to think of other solutions without forgetting that this is a very important topic and we have to work on it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Bangladesh to be followed by Kuwait. Bangladesh, please.
Excellency, I think Kuwait is before me, when I clicked. So if you, should I?
Yeah, I think that's fine, because you will be followed by the ambassador of Kuwait.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Just to emphasize, or rather support what you have told, that in this area or in this era of new technology, it's not so difficult to engage everyone. Everyone can be engaged. everyone can be from NGOs, from state party, the concerned officials of the state party, from community. Everyone can be involved to have dialogue. So actually, are we totally overhauling our process? If it is so, then I will be happy to do that. Mr. Tim Curtis, please do not take my word in a different way. I do not say that in a tough language that it is a language game, but truly it is a language game when you write on this particular 5 points, whether it is 5 points or 7 points, whether it is urgent safeguarding or whether it is representative list. But this is actually the thing, that how we present, whether state party preparing a dossier, or whether a person who is doing it, who is in charge of it, whether community, as this time the issue is community will prepare the file. To a great extent, community will be given the opportunity to work in their own language about giving the file. So for that reason, maybe this thing came up, that we do not maybe replicate how the things should be replicated and easy to the evaluator to evaluate. I found in a number of cases for different member states that the idea or the element is really important and fully, what I can say, equipped with the qualities to be in the intangible cultural heritage of the world. But problem is how we write, how we present the other issues also, this gender specific language, a gender neutral language, using language which is which can ensure the involvement of the community truly in a true sense. So for that reason, I told it it's a language game, but it's actually definitely our evaluators, our experts, our even the secretariat where while suggesting something, we do a lot to present that particular thing. So my particular request to you, everyone, that don't take it in a negative language or negative idea, but actually it is a language, how you present your language, how you present your specific item or specific heritage item to make it world heritage. This is really a play of language. As a student of English literature, I am telling that it is a language game. It is a metaphorical use, not in a negative use. Thank you. Thank you so much.
On that specific point, Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, and I'd like to thank the honourable delegate of Bangladesh, because the reason I cited it was because I fully agree, and I think he has touched on a very important point that we can be discussing in this context. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to see that this was a very constructive discussion. Okay, Ambassador Adam, to be followed by Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, first let me elaborate what our dear friend Tim, where he said, I know we are stretched thin financially, but we are here today to discuss how we improve our, our Living Heritage 2003 without putting ourselves, again, this is all ideas, this is all options. Then we explore the financial. Again, few years ago, we thought this reform is important, yet we did not have resources. But because we wanted to move forward, we thank Japan for their financial support, and we see we have a progress. So let's, please, if we have something that can add in value to the convention, let's not just keep the financial issues to put us back. Again, I think, finding a solution, financial, for the financial problems, I think it's a lot easier than, improving the convention, the evaluation, the nomination, and the follow-up. So with that, please, any ideas, let's constrain ourselves with the financial. We are not here committed, it will happen. This is, we're exploring, bring ideas. Again, member states maybe think it's, it's useful. They will, support those ideas. Saying that, again, going back to the the NGOs or the communities, we are, Kuwait is very committed to those. We just want to make sure it's the correct modality. Again, the evaluation body, half of it is NGOs. So, we want them to be involved, we want them to be, but how's the modality? I agree with you 100%. The use of modern technology, it can, again, if we have this meeting in a Presentia, will cost us fortune compared to what we're having it here and online. So I think, but the modality, as it's put in mind, this is files, the convention that member state in their dossier, they include communities, they include NGOs with their files. We have no issues with those, NGOs, with those communities to have a direct with the evaluation bodies, which has an NGO. But wait, should be in a very constructive and a very transparent way. And we think the use of technologies always make things transparent. That's why, like, for example, our discussion today, it's webcast. Everyone can see it. So we have a very transparent. So, let's have that, the balance of the involvement, yet we have a transparent system and the use of technology. Again, I emphasize it again. After this year, after COVID, a year and a half, I think we advanced so much. In the use of technology, let's keep implementing it. So to finalize, what I'm saying is, let's not have the financial obstacle to stop any ideas. Let's put it there and let's see member states who can support that. Then the involvement of the NGOs and the community has been transparent according how the dossier, how the files was submitted along that line. With that, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Now, Saudi Arabia, please.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Well, in fact, pretty much of what I was going to say is already said by our colleague, Mr. Adam. True, the online modalities, the online platform would facilitate, especially as we experienced now during the COVID situation. It would also increase the transparency. And yes, Saudi Arabia fully supports having an online platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, in that case, can I summarize our discussions this way, particularly with regard to NGOs and also the communities? Now, I'm talking about the dialogue, dialogue between the evaluators and also the NGOs and communities. Now, on that point, there are considerable number of countries who are saying that this is a useful thing. This is a useful initiative. But nevertheless, a number of countries have also taken a cautious approach, saying that we need to have transparency, we need to have clear modalities. So in that sense, and also the use of modern technologies has been mentioned in that context. In that sense, maybe we need to continue, because we're not here to conclude our discussions. So maybe we should continue our discussions in terms of the modality and in terms of a methodology, transparency of such dialogue, because it is relatively clear that on the question of outside opinions, people are very negative. But when we have focused discussions on NGOs and communities, I see more issues to be clarified. So if we have good modality, if with a transparent dialogue platform, it may be possible for us to make some kind of proposals regarding the involvement of NGOs or communities in the process of evaluation. So I'm sorry that I'm a little vague on the direction that we're going, but this reflects, in fact, a kind of differences in terms of the views expressed in the room. So therefore, I don't want to be too clear about the direction in which we are going, but let's have more discussions after having more concrete suggestions. Perhaps we can work with the Secretariat. The Secretariat can make some suggestions with some suggestions in the future, and we may be able to come back to discussions on those points in September. Now, having said that, just one thing, the geographical distribution. Geographical distribution is a very important topic, and it's a bit of a fashionable topic at this moment in a different context. But anyway, that is not, the point was not made to stop or suspend the process of NGO involvement. That is well taken. That is, that is very clear. But we have to recognize that there is an issue there, and also the related capacity building. Those issues are there, but they are not mentioned to prevent the process from involving in the NGO forum. And therefore, we should keep them in mind, but nonetheless, that should not be taken as an element to prevent the NGO involvement. So that is the take that I'm getting from these discussions. And do you have if you have any different views, please say your views at this moment in time. We have about 10 minutes before the next break. So I would welcome any interventions, particularly when you have different views. So therefore, the floor is open now. I don't see any hand raised. Can I take the silence to mean that my general proposal is acceptable to you? Continuing our discussions on those things with more suggestions, more clear, concrete suggestions. Kuwait, please.
Just to say, I agree with you, Mr. Chair. I think we are moving to the right direction. Just to support your suggestion.
Thank you, Ambassador Allen. Jordan, please. Jordan, please.
Yes, do you hear me now?
Yes, please.
Go ahead. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity again. As you know, the 2003 convention is based on the participation of communities. But due to the complexity of the expression communities, groups, and individuals, the convention itself purposely didn't present any concrete conceptualization on this matter. Opting to put off these settings to the implementation phase, and therefore initiating a broad and complex debate on these concepts, which is not always consensual. That's why I think that if we are talking about the involvement of communities in terms of the evaluation, I think we have to redefine again what does communities mean in the convention itself. And in fact, as the convention doesn't define the concepts of communities, groups, and individual, it also does not clarify what is meant by participation, how it is accomplished, or who represents the communities and the groups in a participatory process. I think such issues should be also elaborated and also discussed and debated before we take any necessary steps towards the participation of communities or representative communities in the evaluation process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not saying if I sounded as if I'm saying that we agree on the involvement of communities at this moment in time and talk about concrete measures. No, that's not what I said. Because the room was fairly divided in terms of the involvement of the communities, I thought that perhaps more concrete suggestions in terms of the modalities, in terms of transparencies of those such involvement, that would probably facilitate our discussions in September. That's all I said. I haven't taken any position on that.
Thank
so
you.
your concerns will be taken into account, of course. Please don't worry about that. Would that be okay for Jordan?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, Algeria to be followed by Kuwait. Algeria, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, de me donner encore une fois la parole. Nous estimons que le dialogue avec les ONG est important et doit aider et faciliter le processus d'évaluation. Mais nous estimons pour cela que des modalités claires doivent être définies pour permettre une certaine cohérence entre les différentes informations recueillies, permettant une évaluation objective des dossiers d'inscription. C'est pour cela que nous sommes d'accord avec votre proposition, Monsieur le Président, de poursuivre donc la discussion sur ce point à la fois important et sensible. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. Kuwait, Ambassador Alam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so just to continue and be more practical in our discussion, Mr. Chair. First of all, we all decided we wanted to make the procedure simplified. So we don't want to add anything that complicate the procedure. So because in all member states, I heard at the beginning, we want to simplify the procedure, yet keeping the communities and the NGOs involved. So my suggestion for, to go in specific, I think we have an optional dialogue process. Now we're gonna make it more a concrete part of the process. I think having the specific or the NGOs or the committee using the platform, the technology platform, to be involved at the dialogue process, I think that's a good start. We're not adding another layer of the process. We're not complicating the process. We're getting them involved. So with the use of technology, I think, to begin with, just a suggestion is to have that part of the involvement of the community and the NGOs during the dialogue process, using the technology. And let's see if that's our colleagues in member state, they see this is a positive suggestion, and we can take it from there in the discussion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ambassador, thank you very much. That's more or less the point that I wanted to make. But in any case, we don't need to have a clear position here. But as we said, as Ambassador Adam said, we're not talking about adding another layer of the process. No, it's not that. But in terms of the dialogue, just to have a good evaluation, sometimes experts may not have enough information about specific aspects of the nomination. And in cases like that, the NGOs working on the spot or the local communities, having that tradition, may be contacted for more information. But as many people express some kind of concerns or reservations, we need to have a clear modality. We need to have transparent process with modern technologies. So let's work on that. I think what Ambassador Adam said will probably provide a good starting basis. But let's continue our discussions with more precise mechanism in mind. So, yes, Brazil, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, just to say that I like very much and totally agree with this proposal of the ambassador, made by the ambassador of Kuwait, to use the dialogue process as an important tool to incorporate those consultations with communities, with NGOs. We are still giving a definitive format to the dialogue process. So let's take advantage of this and use it to implement all those, to try to implement all those ideas that are coming up in our meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now it's almost 11, but I see a hand from an expert, Ms. Jacobs. So can you make your presentation within 1 minute or something? Please do it, and we will close this discussion.
Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted to remind you to perhaps also look at the report of the breakout group 1, where we emphasize the possibilities of connecting resources and needs. And these resources, it could be money, but also expertise from NGOs, but other also communities, helping communities, and so on. So I think this idea of a platform, it allows for a better ecology of connectivity and pooling resources. So if we think a little bit out of the box, we can develop an interesting system. That was our proposal in the expert group. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. That is a very good suggestion. So now I would like to close this part of the discussions and I'll come back in 30 minutes to discuss 4A again. Thank you very much for your participation.